Book 1, Law of Salimi, Chapter 55, Science of Love. Honestly speaking, I had reached the present moment in my life, which meant that this book should have been finished by the last chapter. Nonetheless, I felt that there are several things in my life that had been asked about me from numerous individuals which made me obliged to provide a proper form of answer. In addition, it might be able to provide answers to the area of knowledge in my life that had been left unexplained in this particular book. Obviously, there were several gaps that I had intentionally shunned in order to shorten the actual length of this book. In effect, I had possibly thousands of events that needed to be omitted from being described, which I hope to be shared in future books. So in this chapter, I will attempt to answer questions about my love life. The title of this chapter was the title of my first book that I had written in 2007 or 2008. The book was never published because it seemed that the degree of the subject matter at the core of the book was not seen as desired by consumers or readers in the Malaysian society at that time. It was written about my observation, practice, and analysis regarding how the emotion of love being measured from scientific method, perspective, and research. Although it was not published for now, I had shared the book with several of my students who was interested with knowledge. The book explored how the emotion of love was essentially similar to other forms of emotion in each individual, such as happiness, anger, sadness, and so forth. It arrived at the conclusion that such emotion could be controlled, which also meant that love can be controlled by any person with ample training and belief to do so. I had put every theory explored in the book into my real-life practice and had proved that each theory worked as explained in the book. In addition, the book also explored the concept of finding suitable life partner for marriage and concept of love from the perspective of Islam with the true essence and spirit of Islam tesi. In short, I perceive the pursuit of finding love and spouse based on my understanding of the teachings of Islam. I also believe the theory of attraction based on scientific research and knowledge from the field of study developed in psychology and social sciences. Moreover, as I had developed my level 2 abilities, my perception on science of love had become much more complex in my life, which had made it rather difficult for me to fall in love. On the other hand, the complexity allowed me to understand the concept of love and marriage, which helped me to theorize and wrote the book. However, considering that I had no official education background or title in the field of psychology and social sciences, it was hardly a surprise to me when my knowledge on the subject matter might not carry any weight to the masses public. Before I explored about my life experience about falling in love or out of love, let me begin by stating a disclaimer that I tried my best to live my life in moderation and practice Islam as a way of life. In doing so, I had never married anyone in my life, and thus I had not engaged in any activity that was not in line with the teachings of Islam to the best of effort and knowledge. In short, I am still a virgin because I live my life in accordance to the teachings of Islam. It might not seem to be a desired status at my age when compared to the current notions practiced by the masses society that glorify the concept of materialism and hedonism. I even had been told by one of my students that I was jealous of her for having an active relationship with her boyfriend which might suggest to having active sexual intercourses outside of marriages. I vehemently denied her assumption because such practice would simply invite a huge amount of sins in my life from Allah the Almighty, which I would very much love to avoid, considering I am not an angel myself. I am grateful that in this particular area in my life, I do not involve myself in any prohibited and sinful activities based on the teachings of Islam, and I would rather die as a virgin rather than commit any sins, especially adultery. With that said, let me begin with my love life, which seemed like a great adventure to me and clearly a great test from Allah the Almighty. As you can see my picture, I would consider myself to be extremely grateful to Allah the Merciful because I am not as handsome or as good looking as famous actors. On the other spectrum, I am not as unattractive as individuals that might be tested by Allah the Almighty, much worse that I am in my life, such as people who had a tumor on their face which was left untreated due to extreme poverty that eventually led the person to have severely disfigured facial features. When it comes to my physical appearances, such as height and weight, albeit that I do not possess the desired model figure and build, I am extremely grateful to Allah the Merciful that I do have a moderate feature. I am not too tall or not too short. I am also not too fat nor too thin. I would consider myself to be appropriate for my lifestyle. Honestly, if you measure my height and weight based on the body mass index BMI measurement, I might not reach the most ideal set. Nonetheless, it goes without saying that the BMI system was not perfect, nor does it truly represent the most ideal concept of health based on the teachings of Islam. As far as I am concerned, I just need to be above 50 kilograms so that I could perform continuous blood donation in my life, as well as in a range where I am healthy to perform my routine in life. Although I must say that at this age, I do feel that I should be lighter, but it seemed that constant cycling activities might contribute towards the huge weight on my legs, which I am assuming to be mass of muscles instead of fat. All in all, I feel that I am still within an acceptable and appropriate weight for my lifestyle today. In terms of love life, I had numerous likes and crushes, which I do not wish to share here, considering it might be too much to mention in this chapter. To be fair, would like to state here that my very first deep feeling of passion toward another human being, which I consider as falling in love in my life, would be around the age of 13 to 15 years old. The first person whom I had fallen for was named Moy, which I am currently calling my spectacles, where if you watch the anime Law of Yueki, you would probably get the references. At that time, Moy was someone who was older than I was. I tried to get a picture of her, but at the year of 1994, it was extremely difficult to acquire a picture of someone where there was no availability of digital picture from a smartphone. Hence, I had to go to her workplace, which was a certain restaurant that I should not mention in this book, every week just to see her. It was about 3 years duration of me visiting her workplace. I had never acquired the courage to even introduce myself to her, considering that there might not be a future, since I was too young at the time. Nevertheless, I did remember the sweet effort that I had put to meet her without her consent. At 17 years old, I had an official person whom I had notified of my feelings at Maktab Sabah. It was after the XPM examination where I told her that I was truly interested with her and intended to marry her after I completed my degree program. She agreed, but after a year or so, she decided to be with someone else. From my own understanding, even though she provided me with a different excuse. During my study for diploma, I never allowed myself to be distracted by falling in love with anyone because it might affect my study, regardless of several interested students from what I heard and been told by other students. I do remember that this one senior female student who told me that she was interested in me, but at that time I was too focused on my studies, so I kind of ignored her. I never realized that she was truly serious about being interested with me. Honestly speaking, in my defense, no human being had ever exerted any kind of interest towards me, which meant that I had virtually zero experience on the recipient end of the spectrum. So, if she was reading this book, I am truly sorry for my stupidity when it comes to handling the feelings of other human beings. I was too stupid to notice that she was sincere in her intention. One of the biggest reasons as to why I behaved in such a way was due to the fact that I was extremely shy person and shameful human being to the degree that it was severely difficult for me to respond in a way that it might not harm the feelings of others, especially the female of the human species. Another significant element was the fact that I had zero experience from anyone who was seriously interested with me, whom I felt very odd, very weird and odd looking to anyone. Lastly, around the age of 16 years old, when I was studying at Maktab Sabah, I had numerous weird incidents, which I had explained in earlier chapters of this book, which involved blood-dripping tragedies. Moreover, at the same time duration, I had another experience which I had yet shared with anyone in my life, so let me try to write it down right now. During my study at Maktab Sabah in Form 5, if memory served, I was in the same classroom with numerous beautiful female students. At that time, I was trying my best to simply focus on my study while ignoring them from lingering in my mind. At first, it was rather easy, considering that I was not the most popular or most good-looking student at the school. In one particular day during the lunch break, I was staying in my seat while all of the other students went to the canteen to eat. I rarely went to eat during the school lunch break. That day, a female student whom I would consider to be deviously charming had appeared in front of me and began speaking with me about stuff. Basically, she was just chatting about trivial things without any serious discussion intended for the chat. Just a simple chat between two students. The next day, she kept coming and chatting with me. Soon, she asked me to talk about something private, which I agreed to because I had never anticipated that what she intended to speak to me about. Next, she was quiet, and I can sense a serious aura that might be due to the fact that she seemed to try to calm herself in front of me. You, the reader, could simply imagine what happened because this was entirely an unimaginable scenario where one of the most beautiful female students seemed to be trying to stay calm when talking to me, who was a nobody in that school. After remaining silent for a while, she said, "I love you." Frankly speaking, I had no knowledge as to how I should have responded to her confession of love towards me. I do not know whether she was truly sincere or simply making a jest at me. If I was wrong to assume that she was joking with me, I am truly sorry, and I sincerely apologize of my stupidity as well as immaturity of handling the situation. As I did not know on how to handle or respond to her, I began to smile and then burst into laughter. She was surprised for a while, but after some time she was laughing too. She did try to stop from laughing and kept repeating that she was very serious about it, but both of us just laughed our way out of the awkwardness scenario. I simply cannot imagine a gorgeous female student who would fall for me. A few days later, she tried again, but as soon as she started to say I love, I simply laughed at her, which she would merely follow my laughter. Honestly, till this very day, when I began recreating the whole scenario in my head again and again, it might be possible that she was truly serious about it, but I guess that I was too immature about it, which might probably be the best option for the both of us, considering the pathway that I had chosen to walk after my SPM examination that completed on the same year at Matab Sabah. Still, if I did hurt her feelings, I am truly sorry and please forgive me for it. Due to this very experience, I reacted almost the same way at UiTM campus Mangatal when this senior female student confessed her feelings to me, where I responded that she was simply joking around with me. In this example, I am truly sorry for my mistake, that assuming that she was not serious about her feelings towards me. I still feel that I was honestly did not anticipate or realize the fact that she was serious at that time, which led me to stupidly ignore and dismiss her. For that, I am sincerely and honestly sorry for doing so. A part of these experiences, generally speaking, I had tried to find my right person for my candidate as spouse in a marriage relationship after I completed my degree at UiTM main campus Shah Alam. It might took another whole book for me if I were to write every single one of them that I had encountered in my life journey. So let me just say that I had confessed to about 20 female candidates in my life while being rejected or not appropriate on their behalf. On the other hand, I had about 10 of confessions or interests by individuals who wished to possibly end up as my spouse in marriage, which I was unable to agree with. As my level 2 abilities began to develop in my life, it was extremely difficult for me to see my future in marriage, considering the unfavorable elements that existed in my life, which might not be suitable for me to be married to anyone. I do not wish to go into details, but let me just say that I am currently not suited for marriage at the moment, especially considering that I had a huge debt of RM 120,000 lingering over my present life with no form of employment at this moment. Hence, I highly discourage others from marrying me, apart of numerous other complicated conditions in my life. It might be suited to say that my abilities had become a huge curse against allowing me to live a normal life, or ended up in a marriage at this moment of time. I hope this statement would be suitable answer for anyone who kept on asking, when am I going to get married? My simple answer would be when the time comes. If you extend the questions, when will the time comes? I would simply reply, the time comes when it is time to come. And with that, it ends our chapter 55. Thank you very much for listening and hope to see you again in the next chapter. See you soon.